different housekeeping things before we get into the speakers. I know not everybody is staying for the party, the Jeff party, but in Jeff fashion, we are going to be having a party afterwards. It's going to be kind of multi-tiered. If you're staying for it, if you've been to a Jeff and Leslie Christmas party before, or if you know Jeff, you're not going to be surprised, even if you haven't been to a party, is he loved complex games and making things more complicated than they needed to be. So, and he also loved mixers and liked making people mix and talk to accomplish those goals. So if you're staying for the party, we have these little key rings out on the table down there. The rules are on there, but you'll notice that the key ring is one of 9 colors. There are 8 beads on there and none of them match the color of your key ring. You have to go around and trade with people. No giving them away, trading only, because Jeff would not approve of cheating. So when you have completed that and all of your beads match your ring color, there is a giveaway table out at the base of the stairs with some Jeff memorabilia. We want everybody to take some stuff. Start with 1. If you're here later and you want more, please take more. There's some things on there that were Jeff's that meant something to him that might mean something to people in here that we were like, I don't know why you have this. So there will be some stuff down there that is free for taking. Things that are on the tables up here, not free for taking. Please leave those. We would like to keep those. Some other things that will be down there are we have Jeff coasters, which anybody who's been around Jeff and wooden tables knows that you always use a coaster and you don't F up the wood. So it has Jeff's face on it. Feel free to grab a coaster so that you remember if you can't put it on the wooden table, put it on Jeff's face. Another one is Jeff was working on his autobiography before he passed away. Again, in Jeff fashion, it was a 5-part autobiography. He finished parts 1 and 5. Five was his carrying bridge posts, essentially. Part 1 was 200 pages of stories from age birth to 5th grade. So I don't know about you, I don't have that many memories at that time, but Jeff did. So there are 100 books out there if you want to read about Jeff's early adventures. Grab one of these. They're also, if we run out, they're on Amazon, so that you can buy them on there for the $10 whole. And then the third thing that I wanted to bring up that's not on the table, but just couldn't get in here in time. Anybody who's worked with Jeff is going to be very familiar with the idea of challenge coins. Challenge coins, if you're not familiar, are just imagine like a $50 size, but heavier, thicker coin that teams, especially in the defense industry, will make for a specific project, for a specific team, for a specific group. And they decorate it on both sides with something representative of what they're doing. Or what their project is. And then they'll get some extra. Everybody on the team will get one and they'll get some extras to like hand and trade and like, thanks for working with us. Here's a challenge coin. We have had Jeff Fuller challenge coins made. It's fine. We were supposed to bring the whiskey out here. So those, we couldn't get those here in time, but there are QR codes spread around. There's, I think, 6. They just look like this. We didn't have time to do a sign-up sheet. If you don't know how to use a QR code, find somebody who does. It'll just take you to an order form. We're asking 1 per person. If you want one, we're happy to coordinate getting you one here in town or mail it to you if you're out of town. If you could like Venmo me $5 for help with shipping, that'd be great. But otherwise, they're going to be free, and we have a certain order that we already placed. If you're interested in more, if MMSTS or Honeywell or anybody is wanting more to take back, let us know, and we probably will be doing a secondary order before they throw away the mold. So anyway, those are the things that I wanted to say. Besides welcome, enjoy yourself. We're going to listen to everybody talk. We're going to be asking people to stand up, so just prepare yourself for that when you hear your theme called. Play the game if you want. Jeff would love for you to play the game. Joel Ickes, we know you're going to try to win wherever you are. So your goal is to beat Joel Ickes. Don't trade with him. And one last thing is beads. The beads and the rings did not come together. So the gray ring goes with the white bead. The pink ring goes with the very faintly clear pink bead. So I just wanted to clear that up. And on that note, I'll give it to Sammy who wants to say one more thing, and then we'll get into our speakers. Oh, and the thing with the speakers, we're going to have people come up representing different aspects of Jeff's life because he was a very complex dude. He was both very private, but also very public and very open, and any version of Jeff that you knew was the true Jeff. So we're gonna have people come up from his personal life, from his work life, to kind of talk about maybe a Jeff that you didn't necessarily know or see every day, but was still part of Jeff. So we're gonna honor all the different parts of him as we go through. So thank you for coming. Okay, and she really does deserve an applause because if you're thinking, wow, this is a lot, it is. It is a lot. And this is Jeff living through his daughter. I'm pretty sure there are at least two spreadsheets with 5 tabs each just about today, which he would be so proud about. So yes, this is largely thanks to Dee. So you did amazing, and he would be so proud. Okay, Amber, you didn't know I was gonna do this, but a lot of people have been like, "Is Ellie coming? Can we meet her?" Yes, she came. No, you can't meet her. She's only 2.5 months old, and this is a lot of people and a lot of germs. So, Amber, can you stand up real quick and just kind of like Simba her? So, meet just for y'all. Okay, so she's here for now because she's been our little support human, our mascot, and so we wanted her here, but then she's gonna head home and probably take a nap. Okay, then last thing that I want to say is you might notice that there's Kleenex and then peanut M&Ms. And the peanut M&Ms might be a weird thing to see, but there's a very specific reason we did that. One of my dad's employees out in Vegas came out here and they got dinner. My mom was sick or something, and my dad's like, "You want to come with?" Sure. And she told me a story about how she came to my dad after a meeting hadn't gone the way she wanted, and she was, but more like for emotional reasons than logical reasons. And so she goes to him and is venting about it, and he's just staring at her as she's going. And then he turns as she's still talking, gets into his drawer, pulls out peanut M&Ms, and just holds them up. In the most, "Jeff, I don't do feelings, but can I offer you some chocolate?" So he also once told Sam when she was crying, he said, patted her on the head and said, "You women and your emotions." He said it in a very loving, he just did not understand. And actually, I was thinking it, but 2 weeks before, when he was in the hospital right before he passed, he was crying. He's like, "These meds give me emotions." And I was like, you cancer patients in your feelings. So eat the chocolate as Jeff's way of comforting you in your feelings. All right, Gordy, if you would come up here, please. So this is the way it's gonna go. If you are related by family to Jeffrey, please stand up. Married or biological. So welcome to the Jeffrey family, and Gordy's gonna share a little bit about Jeff as a kid and being part of the family.
Hi and welcome. Thank you so much for the invite to come do this, and your daughters are amazing. Thank you for sharing this. That was incredible. I don't know why I got picked. John's known him longer than I do. All right. So I'm going to tell a couple of Jeff stories, but before I do that, I'm going to give you a little fuller family history. So our grandparents, Arthur and Anna, both died way before Jeff and I were born. Grandpa died in 45 and grandma died in 61. And our parents always told us, "Grandma would have loved you too." Grandma died the year before we were born. So Jeff was born in October. I preceded him by, let's see, July to October. It wasn't a leap year, so 114 days. I don't remember Jeff's birth because again, I was only 114 days old. But I do remember when they lived in Sigourney. So the Fuller family, there were 6 boys and 2 girls, so a family of 8. So there are a lot of Fuller cousins with 6 boys, right? Between the cousins and their children and their grandchildren, it's well over 100. So a prolific family as well. So when Kirby's family lived in Sigourney, we lived in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. And the Fuller family vacations, if you will, mini vacations, where on a weekend you would go visit a relative. A couple hours away in the case of Sigourney, an hour away in the case of the Quad Cities. But we would always go and visit an aunt or an uncle and cousins. And that's where I got to know Jeff and John, from visiting there. And then they moved to Kansas City. And I was like sad and excited at the same time, because I was already a young Chiefs fan, but I'd never been to Kansas City. So when they moved to Kansas City, I remember shortly after they moved, and it was really not too far from here, right?
Right.
West 101st, right up here. I drove by there today, and I'm like, I think this is where they used to live. Anyway. Then when they moved to Kansas City, I was super excited because now we get to actually see the city. And I remember, like, our very first visit to Kansas City, there was a Pong game. Do you remember the video game Pong?
Yeah.
It was the first time I'd ever seen it. I mean, and Jeff wiped me out. Just destroyed me, which was fine because Jeff, in his normal humility, and I'm serious about that, he didn't make fun of me for being, completely uncoordinated and inept at playing Pong, which was like the simplest game ever. But Jeff kept that passion for games his entire life. Jeff loved to play video games of any kind, really. And so whenever we got to visit with John and Jeff and the Fuller family from Kansas City, there was always play of some sort going on. Always some goofiness or some games to play. So that was my first story. My second visit to Kansas City, we actually went to the Chiefs game. That was 1976. Are there any Chiefs fans in the room? Chiefs. My first game was in 1976. Does anybody remember how good the Chiefs were in 1976? It was against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Does anybody remember how the Steelers were in 76? It was not a really pleasant experience for us Chiefs fans. We left at the end of the third quarter. It was only 35-10. And the final score was 45-10. And it was really cold and miserable, but I had a great time because it was my first Chiefs game. The next Jeff story I want to say was in the summer of 1980. No, it must have been later than that. Must have been December, Christmas time, maybe 80. Jeff was 18 still, so it was probably between my birthday and his, fall of 1980. Let's go back. Jeff was 18. I was, we were both 18. We were both 18. In Iowa, the drinking age was 19 at the time. And in Kansas, the drinking age was 18. And I was at Kirby and Dixie's house, and I believe it was Dixie that said, Jeff, why don't you take Gordy to the merry-go-round? And I'm like, what the heck is the merry-go-round? Does anybody know what the merry-go-round was?
Is it a bar?
It was a big country and western bar, like ginormous. Like, from a little kid from Iowa, I had no idea that they even made bars that big. Like, it had a center stage and pool tables everywhere, and like 2 bars. And Jeff knew like everybody there. And I was amazed by that he was just tied into the whole community. And so we had a great time that night. My mom was not real happy because I wasn't old enough to drink at home, but I was on vacation, which was great. Yeah, we had a good time that night. Jeff drove. So that's the other part of the Jeff story that I wanted to tell. I miss him already. And we didn't see each other maybe every 3-4 years. And there's a hole, and there will always be a hole. I just love the man. I had nothing but admiration for him. I'll leave you with something that Jeff kind of took to heart. Peter Pan once said, never grow up. So, never grow up. Here's to you, Jeff. Love you.
Thank you, Jordan. All right, now,
If you ever went to school, high school, JUCO, KU, I guess Avila, with Jeff, please stand up. Wow. Gosh, look at all of you. Oh, that's awesome. Chris College. I've asked Chris to share a little bit about college, Jeff. There are a few stories, Chris, you know you better not share. All right.
I was tempted.
I thought you were.
All right, I brought my crutch. I'm gonna try to make it through without this. So my name is Chris Golich. However, after I'm done here today, you might remember me by another name. I'm probably the last college roommate that Jeff ever wanted. I tell myself that's because he graduated and married Leslie. Okay, so before I tell my Jeff story, I would like to share a quote from an old mutual friend of ours. Many of you will know him. If you don't, please bear with me. This friend was about ready to go on an adventure, and this was his tricksy way of saying goodbye to his friends and family. I am immensely fond of you all, and 71 years is too short a time to live among such admirable and excellent hobbits. I don't know half of you half as well as I should like, and I like less than half of you half as well as you deserve. So this is the kind of logic puzzle that Jeff and I enjoy. Okay, so here's my story, and I'll give it to you kind of like in episodic memories because that's just how my brain works. Before I roomed with Jeff, I roomed with another hometown friend named Eric. And one day, all of Eric's clothes just disappeared. They were gone from the dresser, they were gone from the closet, they were all gone. Now, Eric did not have the wisdom of Luna Lovegood. He did not realize this was a prank, just in good fun. Now, apparently, he was not, as you might say, operating on a budget either, because he immediately went downtown and bought an entirely new wardrobe. Of course, his original clothes showed up not too long thereafter. So, like, there were a couple of small coincidents that happened to happen shortly thereafter. My bottle of shampoo just disappeared, and I was like, am I the prankster's next victim? This seemed unlikely. A bottle of shampoo is a pretty weak follow-up to an entire wardrobe. Anyway, my roommate was kind enough to give me an extra bottle that he happened to have. And also, between my roommate and I, we were having a conversation. Into this conversation, a story from high school found its way. And the story involved one football player peeing into the shampoo of another football player. And Eric asked me, hypothetically, if someone had done that to me, would I ever forgive them? Then I looked up and I said, no, never. And I didn't think about it anymore after that. That's not entirely accurate. About 20 years later, I did find myself thinking about it again. So here's the scene. So my wife and I arrive at one of the Fuller's odd year Christmas parties, and Jeff and Sammy meet us at the door, and Jeff introduces me to us. And Sammy turns to her dad and goes, "Oh, is this shampoo guy?" So that is how I found out that it had been Jeff who had played the prank on my first roommate, and that I had been the unfortunate recipient of misguided vengeance. So I don't have to tell you that Jeff was wicked smart. However, that does not mean that his plans or his hilarious hijinks always went off as intended. Jeff strove to live a life without regret. I have not been entirely successful in that, so I've been thinking about what it takes to improve. The first obvious answer is don't be afraid to do the things that in your heart you want to do. I'm coming around to thinking that another key to that is forgiving. And that applies to yourself as well as to others. You should never say never when it comes to forgiving. Having said all that, I still regret that Jeff is in the half of the people that I know half as well as I should like.
Chris, and thank you for not sharing the story that you and I are both thinking about. All right. The next group is anybody who ever fellowshipped with Jeff through his our world at Hillcrest Christian Church. Please stand up. Wow, look at this. Our family of faith right there. Love to you all. And so I would like to invite Miss Brittany Bryce to come up and share. She and Jeff had the honoriest relationship at church, so I'm anxious to hear this.
I do have a couple of good stories. I wrote them down so I would be sure not to forget. All right, so it is a gift, I believe, for me to be able to stand here and remember Jeff with all of you today. And for those of you that I don't know, that I haven't met before, I'm the choir director at Hillcrest Christian Church. And Danielle asked me to say a few words about Jeff today, which I'm happy to do. So I've known Jeff for almost 25 years. And for the first few years I knew him, he was not in the choir. I know. So I hounded him a little bit until he agreed, yeah, okay, I'll join the choir. So he joins the choir. And, you know, every time you see Jeff come into a rehearsal, he's going to bring three things with him: sharp mind, generous spirit, and a wicked sense of humor. That's why we all loved him so much, right? He was so funny. But other than that, though, his brain could make connections, recall details, solve problems in such an amazing way. I really admire that in him. So I convinced him to join the choir, and I said, I'd like you to sing tenor because I'm always chronically low on tenors. And Jeff said, well, I'm not really a tenor. And I said, I know. I know you're a baritone, but will you sing tenor? So he agreed to sing tenor because he was always willing to do what needed to be done. And he did a pretty good job at it. Sometimes a little stretch, but he did a pretty good job of singing tenor. So anyways, at rehearsals, we would have all kinds of fun with Jeff. And one day, this was the week that Prince, or the artist formerly known as Prince, died. We were having rehearsal that week, and I said, you know, I'd really like someone to do a dramatic reading of When Doves Cry for today, just in remembrance of Prince. And Jeff didn't say, what a stupid idea. Jeff was like, I will do it. And it was hilarious and also inappropriately right before prayer requests. So, but he had that kind of sense of humor. He did a fantastic job at it. I wish we had recorded it. But then again, Jeff was also just a little bit ornery. So there's one time that Janet and I were hanging out before church started. We do this every week, by the way. Like the 5 minutes before, if you tune into the live stream, sometimes you'll pick up from the piano mic me and Janet just talking all kinds of things. But anyway, so on this particular morning, my friend Janet had on a new jacket. And so we were having our girl talk. I'm saying, girl, I love your jacket. You look so cute. And this is when Jeff sidles up. And Jeff loved girl talk. I'd like to get involved in that. So he sidles up and I'm saying, girl, this jacket is so cute. I love it. And Jeff goes, I love it too. Janet, stand up real quick. He says, I love it too. Looks like a Pizza Hut tablecloth. She's wearing that today in his honor, but I don't think she's worn it like she wore it one time. Okay, but in all seriousness, Jeff, to our church, Jeff did so many roles. He was chair of the board. He did all of the roles at church at some time. He was always giving of his time, his talents. And when he approached the work, he approached it with care, not just for the work, but for the people also involved in that work. So we were going to miss you, Jeff, and thanks for singing with us, for serving so faithfully. And Fuller family, we carry you in our hearts. We carry Jeff in our hearts, carry you in our hearts. We care deeply about you, and we're so sorry, but we're so happy at the same time that we knew it.
Thank you, Brittany. Okay, the next two speakers are going to speak as Jeff as a coworker and then Jeff as an employee. So these overlap. So this is gonna be a big crowd too. Anybody who has worked at Honeywell, MSTS, and has supported the mission, please stand up. John, go ahead and come up. I really want to honor that. Ooh, I've been doing okay today. The mission meant so much to Jeff. After 9/11 happened, it changed Jeff. He knew he couldn't be out, going overseas, but what could he do to support our country, our people, our freedom? To him. But he made it his all to, if he was going to be a part of the mission to make things as safe and secure as he could in that way, he was going to do it. So thanks to all of you who have supported that. John, come on up.
Good afternoon. Thanks, Leslie, for that. Thanks to the girls for putting all this together. It's really amazing to see so many people here and everybody that stood up that worked with Jeff. I want to talk about Jeff as a mentor. I appreciate it was an honor for you to say, hey, would you come talk about him as a coworker? Jeff was squarely in the column of mentor for me every step of my career, and you can imagine. You all know Jeff outside as a family man in the church and the community. And I knew him in a lot of those areas too, because he invited me into those situations. I first met Jeff in 2001 when I hired into the plant. And I see several people back there that I first worked for when I hired into the Kansas City plant. And I first worked with Jeff on a program that he had, and I got exposure to Jeff's analytical mind at a very early age, which is why I'm so warped today. Right out of college, I'm a finance guy, program management, project management, not a technical degree person. And I quickly learned my favorite joke, and I told this joke to Jeff every week for 25 years, and I'm sure he got tired of it. Maybe some of you have heard me actually tell it to Jeff. I said, Jeff, what's the difference between an engineer and an accountant? Who knows the answer? An accountant knows they're not an engineer, right? And Jeff would do the same thing. Jeff would go, like that. Turns out Jeff was one hell of a financial planner, one hell of an accountant, as well as an engineer. And honestly, I never worked with Jeff in the capacity where he was a systems engineer, an electrical engineer, you name it. He was all over the place with that. But he took me under his wing, and I think he helped me write every resume that I ever had to put together for every promotion or job opportunity that I came up with. And we found our way out to Olathe after about 10 years. Jeff had gone to Albuquerque to do Kirtland operations and was very successful there, had a great time. I think Leslie, you were down there with him for part of it or sometimes you would go down. Vacation. He was a geo bachelor and I think he had a great time while he was down there with that. Jeff came back and we worked in Olathe and I see a lot of the Olathe crew that was out there from the Kansas City plant. A lot of you guys left us unsupervised. So for about 2 years, Jeff Fuller and I worked side by side. Imagine this. Me and Jeff for 2 years, largely unsupervised from morning to night. I worked the morning shift. Jeff worked the night shift. He would come in about 9. I would get in about 6 or 6:30. He would come in with a case of Coke Zero, right? I was going to have a Coke Zero in his honor today, but he loved Coke Zero. Could not stand it. It's the worst tasting stuff ever. He would drink it in the gallon jugs of it with it, and then lots of coffee. And we won't even talk about the bourbon and cigars, but he had lots of bourbon and cigars with that. Jeff helped me with another resume, and I don't know if Chris Gentili's here or not, but I didn't see him. Jeff helped me write a resume, and I got another job that took me to Phoenix, Arizona, and I think Chris was looking at it, and he goes, "Remember, Jeff wrote this, my resume." He said, "You really maximize the truth on this." That was Jeff. He knows how to write and make anybody look a whole lot better on paper than they actually were. And so from there, I got exposure in how do you maximize the truth in everything that you did. So that helped a great deal. Jeff was you guys know his analytical abilities. He saw things in a way that most generally nobody else could see. The pregnant pause. How many people know Jeff's pregnant pause? Yeah, for a fact, right? The Jeff Fuller pause. We loved it. Turns out he was just waiting for us to catch up, right? Because he could say something and he would pause. And then we're like, well, yeah, we're going to have to take some time to think about that. We had to catch up to where his mind was at. He was incredibly talented with strategically understanding the mission, strategically understanding what our customers needed, what our coworkers needed, which direction we all wanted to go in to supply the mission in its greatest heights with it. So Jeff had an ability to connect the dots in a way that it's still amazing for everyone to understand with that. Let's see, we went to Las Vegas. Whew. I wasn't sure we were going to survive Las Vegas. It was such an incredible time when a handful of us decided to go out to Las Vegas. And that's where the bourbon and cigars really took hold. We had another joke where we had gone out, Jeff and Leslie and myself, and I think a few other coworkers. We'd gone to a comedy club. We had lots of these seat filler tickets a lot of times. And so after hours, we would go all up and down the strip, all to the casinos and do all these things. And you know, you can imagine Jeff gambling. I never saw him gamble. He wouldn't spend money, but he knew how. He knew how to play any game there was and can tell you the odds and the strategy behind all those types of things. One of my favorite times was the double in a short glass. So we had gone up, we had gone to a comedy club. Well, I was buying Jeff drinks all night, and I got him tore up. It was at the Stratosphere. And I would get up and, hey, Jeff, I'm going to go get a drink. Do you guys want anything? Well, I was going up and getting me like just, a little beer or something. I would get Jeff a double bourbon in a short glass and just wave the Coke over it. That would bring back to. He must have had 2 or 3 of those. Well, then we went up to the top of the Stratosphere.
Remember that?
Yeah, and I don't like heights, and so I was hugging the wall back here. Yeah, this is nice, Jeff. This is really good. And he's out there. You know how Jeff does this. And I'm like, Jeff, don't, I was worried more about Jeff wanting to go, sky jumping and all that kind of stuff. But that's when we had the double talls in a short glass with that. But I appreciate Jeff for his mentorship. I told him that all the time. Endless questions. I think I told some other people earlier, Jeff didn't have a door on his office. He took the door off, right? People have an open door policy. That's the one thing. Jeff always made time for people. And from a mentoring perspective, I will always remember Jeff from that perspective is he never had a shortage of time to come in and help you understand what we could do better, what you could do better. If you had a problem, he was always going to help you work on it. So from a coworker's perspective, he was a mentor. He helped, right? He helped us understand what we needed to do, how we could do it better, and really enjoyed that aspect of mentoring for people. So I hope to share many of other stories as the day goes on. As a coworker, please share them. And Jeff, we miss you. Big shoes to fill in this mission space, and nobody's ever gonna do what you were able to get done in those years. So Jeff, I love you. Thank you so much. Your legacy lives on in so many other mentors that I see here. People just like me. We're gonna carry it on. We're gonna carry it on what you did for us. We appreciate you. Love you, Jeff.
I do have to add one thing to that. Your joke that you told every week lived on because this last year, Jeff and I went to our lawyer, our attorney, to get his trust done and all of this. Jeff's trust is very complicated. And the lawyer was looking at it and, kind of talking about that. And Jeff said to our attorney, do you know the difference between an engineer and a lawyer? Right. All right, and the second half of this, Mr. Roger Rocha.
All right, good morning. Let's see, I've had the privilege of working with Jeff for the past 6 years. He is a passionate guy, right? I mean, I want to put this into 3 categories. Jeff had a passion for friends and family. That was obvious. His office was right next to mine. His stories, everything that I've heard about his girls and of course Leslie and the antics and all the things, the extended family, that he had over his house and stuff like that. Those stories were great. But his passion for the mission, I think Leslie pointed to that, was extremely deep and powerful. He was very proud of the mission. It was one of those missions that a lot of you probably understand. It's not one that's in the spotlight. It's not one that you get a lot of accolades for doing, but it's something that's extremely important, maybe important more in recent times than ever before. And Jeff played a large role in that. His 40-year career speaks to that. He's been in that mission for a long time and he's been making those sacrifices. John pointed to his role at the NNSS, the Nevada National Security Sites. He was one of the founding fathers. He brought that contract to Nevada, the MSTS. He is the last person left from that original team that brought it to the site. So that's pretty powerful. He built something that's going to endure. Even after our contract's done, that structure that he built will continue to provide national security for all of his friends and family. To celebrate that, we flew a flag over the Nevada test site, as most people still refer to it. That place is 2 hours out of town. It's where people have been sacrificing, their home lives and their families for 75 years, literally 75 years this year. So we thought it appropriate that we'd fly a flag over that site in honor of Jeff and his dedication, his 40 years of dedication to the national security mission. It's en route. It was supposed to be here. I was supposed to be able to hand it to you, so I apologize for that. But that's pretty powerful. We don't do that very often. And we thought that was something that we should do for Jeff. The other passion, and I think John really pointed to this, was his passion for the people. He mentored people every day. He mentored me. He talked me into coming and taking that job, as a matter of fact. So he played a big part in my career and many, many others, to the point where we felt that it was appropriate that we do something to continue to continue his legacy. So we established a Jeff Fuller Scholarship in his name. Let me just read a little bit of this. In honor of our former colleague, Jeff Fuller, we are proud to announce the Jeff Fuller Memorial Scholarship. This scholarship is designed to support students pursuing STEM-related education that contributes to national security and advances technological innovation across various technical fields. Eligible applicants must be children or grandchildren of NNSS employees. So this will continue to live on. The Nevada National Security Site is proud to honor Jeff's legacy by investing in the next generation of innovators, supporting our national security mission, just like Jeff did his whole. So we're very proud of that. So,
Thanks, Roger, for dropping that on us right
yeah. That's not, I don't ask any good jokes, as John will not do it. But he will be missed. I'm here representing 4,000 people that Jeff supported and touched and basically pushed us in the right direction, right? I mean, his vision, his approach will live on. I will say that in this scholarship, there is a scoring system that we have. Not as elaborate as, Jeff would have that. We thought that was appropriate. The team. There are still performance appraisal algorithms that we can't figure out, but we just continue. So thank you very much. I'm gonna miss Jeff every day. I'll see that office with his phone with the giant battery and but he's a great guy.
So actually, Roger, you get the award for making me cry for the first time today. All right, now this next one. If you are a friend of Jeff Fuller's, stand up. There you go. All right. So to speak on behalf of all of you, our dear friends, Kay and Doug Newman would like to share a few words. Jackson, I'm gonna call you out. Come here. Get up here. What? Hold on. Please come join us. See here.
Okay, so I don't think I have quite as much of a translation as Leslie had when she was up here, but I'm also doing this half off the cuff, so because that's the way I roll. The first time that I met Jeff Fuller, it was before Leslie knew Jeff. Doug and I were at Hassinger. It was the fall of 1983. Was Saturday, and we went down to lunch. So I go through the oh so tasty lunch line, and I go and sit down at a table. There's just this guy all by himself sitting there. I said, okay, I think I'm gonna go sit. Let's go sit with this guy. So we sit down and said hi. He kind of looked at us, said hi, and he's eating, and then he looks and goes, I do have friends. They're just all in band. So we. So then Leslie, fast forward for a year, and she starts telling me that, she said, hey, they date this guy. His name's Jeff. And I see him as like, oh, that's the guy with the band friends. So, I mean, and who would know that 40 years later, sorry, that we would, 40 plus, gosh, yeah, that we would be here. No, I need it. So, I had the pleasure of knowing Jeff Fuller, the friend goofball. Obviously, I knew he worked, at Allied and then Honeywell and whatever iterations I went through as they were doing it together. But he couldn't tell me what they did at work because you kill him, So Jeff was someone that, of course, Leslie and I are, the two little Miss Positives that he would call us that would get together and in his mind make horrible decisions. And that he would have to come and fix. But at the end of the day, he's like, oh, and then sometimes he'd go, okay, well, I guess I need this, he really did. So we went through the, all of us getting married, double income, no kids, but we still were very poor. So we managed to have a lot of fun, just getting together. And then we had the children phase and the doing everything together and going to church. And then we had the, double or the, empty nesters. And through all of that, Jeff would mostly look at me like sometimes I was just nuts. Because if there were any two polar opposites in this world, it would be Jeff Fuller and Kay Newton. However, at times he would just also kind of look at me like, wow, you really came up with that. My memories of Jeff would be sitting at the lake out on the dock and him wearing 3 pairs of glasses. His regular ones, his readers, and then sunglasses. Yes, his cheaters. So, and just listening to music and having very deep conversations just about life. And I mean, I loved listening to the way he would think about things because it was like, how in the world is your brain? And, and then sometimes every once in a while he would say something to me, it would be just exactly the same. It would be like, I think he was just amazed that sometimes I would just hop into something and just do it because and it would work. And he's like, well, you didn't,
Plan it out.
you didn't plan it out. We went through all these phases, including, the cancer phase. And even through all of that, Jeff was who Jeff always was. He was a friend. He was, his brain never changed. He was even when he was in pain and on drugs, he was still amazingly funny, actually, and a little bit more emotional. And, but still quintessentially Jeff right until the end. And that was what was so impressive. So I'm going to leave you here with that. Jeff, I will miss you. I already do. My lovely husband has a lot more in-depth stories. But I am going to let him shut up.
All right. So Roger, I don't know if you know this, but Jeff used to say that about work, I'm the only one that really knows what's going on around here. I didn't know if he shared that or not. So yeah. Daily. So yes, the IT guy has got paper, so only way I was gonna get through this today. So, I knew it was coming, but it didn't stop the start tear, but it was that text from Sammy saying, we want you to talk about Jeff. So, and it wasn't, that I'm concerned about public speaking. It was more, how do you describe this man in just a few minutes? Unfortunately, we've got a bunch of people here doing that today, so. But Jeff was a complex fellow, but he was one likely to take a wife. So Sammy knows that illusion, so that was for her. Fortunately, I just have to speak to Jeff, the friend. So I met Jeff in the fall, winter of 1983. We were living in Hashiger Hall Dormitory, University of Kansas. And so you have to ask, how do two introverted college men meet each other? Well, through other women. So Leslie, his future wife, lived right next door to my future wife, Kay. And so that's how we got to know each other. And this was the beginning of a core group of friends. And we had a bunch of friends that all lived in Hashiger Hall, and we have stayed together for 40 plus years. And so, at the time, I don't think I appreciated that or even thought that we'd still be around today. And here we are. So a few stories. So it's already been referenced here, but it's been an odd year. And the people that chuckle at that know and probably have been to the Fuller Christmas party held every odd year. And I can't remember when it started. It seemed like it was about the early 90s or so. And the invitees were just this widely diverse group. You had people from work, you had people from church, you had friends, you had family and neighbors and countrymen and everybody was there. So
Jeff, the friend, and the engineer, who, always wanted to make sure people, didn't just click out and talk to just their little groups of people that they knew. He invented a game. So, of course, and it had to have rules. So the very first year, the one I remember, is the one where you got to the door, they put a label on the back, it had a name on it. And so your job was to go around and talk to people and ask them yes or no questions, 3 yes or no questions, and then figure out who was this person that was on your back. And it could be anybody. It could be, somebody real, somebody imaginary, somebody famous, and so you had to go around. So I got there and, people want to help each other out. So I got there, I got my name, and spoiler alert, I got Betty Crocker. And so I don't know. So I'm going around, I'm talking to people, and the first person I go to and say, am I dead or alive? And they look and they grab somebody and am I dead or alive? And the same confused, they're alive. And the first person goes, no, I'm dead. And then somebody else comes along and they grab a third person and they look at the name and, oh, that person doesn't exist. And this kept repeating itself. I thought I was a plant or something. So I was spinning off the party highway very quickly that night. And so the point of the game is you get done quickly, you get better seating for the gift exchange. And so you want to be late in the gift exchange. I was very early in the gift exchange and got something that I didn't particularly care for, got deposited in the bushes at the Fuller's front of the house, along with a number of other gifts. I wasn't the only one that did that. So Jeff, the friend, was devious. I know he planned that. I don't care what you say. He planned it. Lake weekends. So Jeff, the friend, knew how to have a good time. We started a tradition of going to the Lake of the Ozarks every summer. And when you're young and poor, how do you do that? Well, you leverage a parent's house at the lake. So we were fortunate enough to have a core group member have an A-frame house at the lake that we leveraged for many years. Slowly but surely, that family, it just became too much of a demand and too much of a hassle. So we was like, okay, we've got some money now, so we got to, take care of this ourselves. So we started renting, just for long weekends and going down this core group of friends and, having a good time. And I remember one particular time that we went down, we're going to a place we'd never been before. And this was the days back before iPhones and Androids. So we had Garmin's. And we're Garmining our way down to the lake. And so we had 2 cars. We had a car full of men, and I was driving that car, and then we had a car full of women following us. And we had 2 different, we're very techno nerds. We had 2 different Garmin devices in our car. And so we're cruising down the lake, and we're getting closer and closer. And then we noticed that the 2 Garmin's are giving different directions now. And so we had to pick one, and so we did that. And so next thing we noticed, we're running out of road and stuck. So stay on track here. So we stop, the women pull up, beside us and, roll the window down. And I was getting frustrated. I don't like to be lost. And so, I want to get to the lake house and relax. So the women pull up and, we're kind of talking back and forth. And then Jeff, I think he sensed the tension. So he lowers the window down and leans his whole head and body out of the car and says, "Beer me, witch." Except he didn't say witch. So it was kind of like a bomb, going off and you're that shock wave and you're waiting for, the next thing to happen. And compliantly, a beer was starting to be about to be passed over when all of a sudden that person was like, "What the did you say?" So we decided, so he got his beer, we got back, we decided to then pivot. use the other Garmin we got there. We had a great time. So, and the lake weekend is, you know, you drink alcohol, you eat food, you drink alcohol, you have deep conversations, you drink alcohol and you play games and so another great time. So Jeff, the friend, knew how to have a good time. Family vacations, or should I say family vacations? So the Newman and Fuller families essentially grew up together. We had, you know, many weekends spent together. We had church, you know, we'd see them there. We'd go over to each other's houses. And so it ultimately led to, you know, doing some vacations together. And you haven't done Disney's Epcot International Food and Wine Festival until you've eaten and drank your way around with your adult kids. So Jeff coined the phrase for that day: when someone asks you if you want a flight of beers, you say yes. Now, we didn't drink, you know, all the way around. It was a challenge.
It was a challenge.
So Jeff, the friend, was also a lover of timeshares, being self-aware that he was a bit of a workaholic, but also fiscally conservative. Jeff summarized why he bought into timeshares. They forced me and my family to take a good vacation each year because, you know, if he spent all that money, he was going to use that timeshare. So later I bought in that same philosophy and we've had some opportunities to vacation together. We've been to St. Thomas and Cancun. And so, you know, while Jeff was somewhat tethered to a work phone on vacations, he did not allow it to interfere with him having fun. So Jeff, the friend on vacation, could be sort of a goof, as you've seen some of the pictures today and some of the pictures downstairs. My favorite memory was Jeff finding an Infinity Stone glove at the Marvel store at Disney Springs. And he promptly used it and with his lovely face, gave the finger. I won't do that. And just the look, just the wide-eyed look that he had when he did it was hilarious. Jeff, the friend, was unique and was so many things. He was a good listener, someone you could trust. You knew Jeff was listening to you when you spoke because sometimes, you know, his eyes just like drilled into you. So I swear the guy didn't blink when you're having a serious conversation. And he didn't give you any idea what, you know, what he was thinking of, but he would offer whatever advice that you needed and was there when you needed him. I count myself blessed to have had the opportunity to know him and be his friend. I know I'm a better person because of him, and he is irreplaceable. Thank you very much.
All right. So are we way over time yet?
Oh, yeah, but it's, you know, whatever.
Okay. Where are they? All right, they're over here. All right, you two. What was the time goal on yours? 3 to 5 minutes, right?
3 to 5.
I
You
know,
know,
it's like, yes.
if you need to go over, you can.
I did say that.
All right. Okay, so the next group, we're getting close. If you consider yourself part of Jeff's kids, or Jeff was ever your youth leader, or from a kid standpoint, like a Sunday school teacher, please stand up. All right. So now I'd like to ask Emily Gold and Tyler Miller to come on up.
Good luck.
So I'm Tyler, or
Ty.
Tyler Miller, which I don't think Jeff ever said my name
Without singing.
without singing it. So, and we are just two. This is Emily. Did you have a song?
And bam, baloo, bam, bop, bamboo.
And we are just two of the many unplanned children that Jeff had. Can I say it like that? And I feel like we all just sort of slowly crawled out of the woodwork. And one day Jeff just kind of like looked up and there's 15 extra kids laying around the house and just like lost puppies looking for food, shelter, and hard seltzer. So we just, you know, just became part of the family. And it's just been like a wonderful experience being on that side of things with Jeff and Leslie, and how just wonderful you guys were, and as adopted parents. And I mean, this group literally dictated the size of the homes that you guys got over the years. Like, I think we're gonna need a bigger boat. Like, I don't think it's gonna fit everybody. Queen size bunk beds and a pool. Thank you for all of that. Extra refrigerators. We had food.
You know, I don't think any of us bonus kids doubt Jeff's love for us at all, but some of us certainly pushed the limits in the earlier years. Tyler and I were especially loud and boisterous, particularly when in the same place. And I know that we woke him up in the middle of a Friday and Saturday night on more than one occasion, which he didn't love. And I also know for a fact that we've both broken his furniture and belongings and parts of his home.
Some things he knows about, some things.
And some things he never will. But getting a glimpse of how other people in Jeff's life saw and experienced him, I know that all of us unplanned kids feel truly, truly honored to have known and been loved by Jeff the dad.
Yeah. So I want you to just imagine for a moment a 40-year-old Jeff who has worked really hard to have a beautiful home, a quiet home, on a quiet street, with two beautiful girls and a beautiful wife. And after a long day of work, he comes home and he opens the garage door. And are any of those things there? No, but I was. So he walks in and he goes, hello. So, hello. I'm sitting there with all of Almond Mom's snacks, whatever I could find that was edible in your kitchen, homework askew, a Walkman around my neck. And he says, okay. And I think that was the moment that he realized, or at least accepted, that he had a son. You look fine here. I'm gonna go away now. I was the catalyst behind No Boys Upstairs. I was the first boy given the garage code. I mowed Jeff's lawn. I dated Jeff's daughter. I ate his food. I clogged his toilets. I broke his things. I broke into your home. So I just want to say to all the unplanned children, I paved a road for you of tolerance for Jeff. But Jeff also gave me real moments of guidance and advice and praise, even some in his own way. I remember when he live translated Romeo and Juliet for us so that Sammy and I could pass our test the next day. And it sort of went like, Romeo, Romeo, wherefore art thou Romeo? And then Jeff would be on the couch next to us and he's like, where you at, bitch? I've been up all night. So if you can imagine that for 2 hours. It was wonderful. I remember surprising him as Big J when I was at KU. I remember our Dirty Disney song renditions. I remember everybody's coming up with these professional, this is who he was as an employee at national security, blah, blah, blah. I saw this man eat tuna out of a can over the sink because he didn't want to do it. We had a very different experience. I remember when he was dressed as our Taco Bell waiter for the homecoming dance that we never went to. I remember how he asked me to play basketball in the driveway, and then I was like, I don't think I'm that kind of son. And he was like, okay. But he was proud of me in his own way. And I will always remember Jeff as the man who accepted me fully because I was loved by the girls that he loved the most. And he was the father that I wanted, the father that I needed, and the father that I got. So Jeff, thank you for every song, every game, and every awkward moment. Amen.
Jeff and Leslie knew me since I was born 8 months before their oldest child. I grew up going to church and Sunday school with Danielle and Sammy. They've been my best friends ever since. None of the three of us can really remember our life before each other. And Jeff and Leslie started letting me come over after church to hang out with the girls as far back as when they were living in their first house together, which I still have memories of. And he just never really, Jeff never really got rid of me after that. So I last saw and visited with Jeff at the end of the year last year and foolishly thought that I would have more time. So when I heard that he was nearing the end of his earthside journey, I really wanted to find a way to communicate to him one last time how special he was to me. And so I decided to crochet him a gnome and mail it out from Oregon. But that didn't feel like enough. And I felt like I had so many things to say while I still could, but I also had no idea really what to say or how to say any of it. So I felt like Jeff would appreciate maybe a story. So I wrote sort of an autobiographical story to go with it to try to convey my thoughts to him. And in the story, a girl, me, makes a gnome to send to a knight, Jeff, who's ending his battle with a ruthless monster, cancer. And the girl makes the gnome to help the knight defeat the monster and be his companion on whatever journey comes after. But the gnome tells her that all he can do is bring the knight a message. And so here's part of that story. The gnome told the girl, there exists a very special connection between knights and gnomes. We can communicate with each other in a special language without words. A language without words, repeated the girl, but how will the knight get a message from me without the use of words? Have faith, replied the gnome. Messages sent with love can be more powerful than you may believe. Tell me your message to the knight, and I shall deliver it to him with an understanding better than any words could convey. She wasn't sure what it was about the gnome that began to change her mind, but the girl found that somehow she did have faith. Sending a mere message to the knight had seemed inadequate, but she had an inkling that the gnome knew best. And suddenly the girl's mind flooded with memories and sentiments, thoughts and feelings, and she put the gnome's ear to her lips and began to whisper her message. She told the gnome about all of her fondest memories with the knight, playing games, telling jokes, car rides, Sunday mornings in the pews giving way to lazy Sunday afternoons filled with laughing little girls, dolls and toys and make-believe, cartoons and Disney and macaroni and cheese, lyrics reimagined and dances invented, reading and talking and jokes sailing over her head, church plays and school plays, choirs and sports, odd years, and a swimming pool in the desert filled with friends, and something about a jar full of almonds. And she told the gnome about her nickname born from a song, and the knight's creative mind, which, if you know Tutti Frutti, em bam baloo bam ba bop bam boom. And she even told the gnome that there was a time she was a little bit scared of the knight, and once even ran to hide from him in a bathroom for fear that she might get a talking to for being too boisterous too late at night, as she heard his armored footsteps ascending the basement stairs. She remembered the lessons the knight had taught her, like, if it seems too good to be true, it probably is. And she gave words to the unspoken lessons he taught her too, like how to think logically to help solve any problem that may arise, how to plan for the future but still enjoy the present, how to be practical, how to be silly, how to be generous, how to be faithful, how to be loyal. She spoke life into the feelings she felt when she thought of the knight, how she never felt like the knight wished she were more or less than who she was, how she always felt cared for and looked after by the knight through all the different versions of herself that she grew into and out of, how he was there for her when she lost her own father and wasn't sure that the darkness would ever lift, and how she never took for granted the generosity he showed her throughout his life, even if it seemed like she did. How she felt like a piece of his home was her home too, and how her entire life was shaped in no small part by his loving guidance. She recounted the knight's presence during the important moments and the mundane, and his steadfastness through it all. And at last the girl finished her message. Will you remember everything I've told you so that you can tell the knight? Asked the girl. The gnome smiled and patted her hand. Memories can be faulty, Words can be inadequate, but I promise the night will get your message. I love you, Jeff. And I want you all to know, we had no idea what this was. And so I was like, hey, Dad, you got a package. My mom's sitting there, I'm sitting there. I was like, Emily wrote you a story. I'll read it out loud for you. And I got 2 sentences in, and I was like,
Oh.
which? Okay, we're running really, really late. So I'm supposed to talk about Jeff, the family man. I think you've gotten the gist. Jeff was great. He was a great dad. He was a great husband. He pissed us off sometimes in different ways for different reasons. But God, we loved him so much. And Sammy and I were both very lucky to go through periods living with him as an adult. He always said that he was like, if I didn't do my job by the time he turned 16, there's nothing I could do at that point. So it's not that he gave up parenting, but he definitely shifted his mindset to, I did what I could, and now you're kind of on your own. I'll be here as a crutch for you, but you are the person you're going to be, and I will support you. So him living with Sammy, him and my mom living with Sammy during the cancer journey. I got to live with them between quitting my job in DC and moving to Scotland for like 8 months. And it was time, but I cherish it. It feels, I don't have any regrets about the time we got to spend together. So Jeff was an awesome dad, awesome family guy. I think everybody here knows that. So I'm going to save time. And before Sammy's going to close us out, actually, yeah. And then I'm going to, after you talk, I'm going to do a little housekeeping instruction. Okay. I mean, I could talk about like how he was my best friend and how he was the best dad and you know those things, but honestly, if you knew our family, you already know that. You know, I looked at him once towards the end and I was like, you know, this is normally the time where people say all the things that they never said to each other, but Bart said all of it. And he just smiled and said, yes, we have. So I wanted to do 2 things. One, we got, you know, the opportunity to really get the closure and peace from him in his final days. And so I wanted to share some of that so that can bring some of you all that also. Sorry, let me open this up. So first thing is I had a conversation with him about a year before and about what he thinks was going to happen. Like, what do you think happens after you die? And we had this whole long conversation about it. But at the end, he's like, the older I get, the more I think I don't know. But whatever it is, it's going to be an adventure. And if I can, I'll send back messages. And if anybody could figure out how to send back messages, he And then in the hospital, when we had decided to go the hospice route, he said, I'm happy for me. I'm just not happy for you 3, which honestly made me feel better that he wasn't sitting there dreading or fighting. He was just like, okay, I'm good with this. And he said, I had 3 goals I wanted to achieve in my life. Financial security for my family, check. Seeing you and your sister find good partners and be settled in life, check. And become a grandpa, check. He said that last one was just for me. It was my selfish one. But he really, truly felt that he lived a full life and he was totally at peace. I also asked him, said, you know, you had these plans to travel. Are you sad that you're not going to get to do those things? And he said, well, no, that was the plan I made with the information I had at the time.
Yeah.
I have new information now. So now I have to figure out what I want to do. So that's the most Jeff-full answer I would ever think of. And which also is side note, literally up until his last days, he was, you know, really drugged out. And but he just kind of opened his eyes. He's like, did you guys take the trash out?
I was like, what? He was like, trash day. And I was like, yes. I was like, also, what are you doing? It's not for you to worry about. And he just kind of looked at me like, you know, I'm going to worry about this until I'm gone. And another time, Leslie, we haven't changed the filter since we moved in. And then I'm conveying to her as she's in the back room, turn left. Okay, yeah, no, look at that. Okay, I found it. Okay, we're good. Now his trust. That was what he decided to do. He said, when he first thought of this, he's like, look, I'm not going to be around to decide what happens to all of this. And, you know, maybe your mom wants to give it to a butterfly sanctuary or your sister thinks everyone should get a cat. I want a say in it. Okay, so yes, it's a super complicated thing. And luckily, my job, because yes, each of the three of us have a job for this trust. I think I got the best job, where I get to go out and find people, organizations, things that we can give money to each year, donations. And my mom and my sister have to figure out all the financial crap that I have no interest in being involved in. And then they say, this is how much money we have. Here we go. So then I go find the people, we come back, we'll talk the three of us, vote on who's going to get what that year, and then, you know, we'll present that to them. He had a lot of rules as far as who the money could go to. And we had a very long conversation about it. Las Vegas would never get a single dime of this money. For those of you who don't know, Las Vegas healthcare almost killed him at the very beginning of this adventure. Also, it would not go to just Missouri. If Missouri was getting any money, it had to be because Kansas was too.
Because I'll be dead in the cold, cold ground before I recognize the state of Missouri.
So it's my job to filter through the Jeff lens. Is this like, are you somebody that he would give this to? And Tall Oaks was the camp that we grew up at. And really where we made some of the strongest bonds, where they collected a lot of their, you know, children. And I actually didn't find out until just last week. He went to Tall Oaks as a kid. I don't know how, I never knew that. But it was really a huge part of our childhood. And right now, Daniel Merrick, is he here? Daniel, if you're here, just work your way on up here. If not, I'll make Clayton come over. Daniel Merrick, one of those children, is now the director of the camp. It was going to be sold. I don't know all the details about that, but it was going to be sold and they fought to keep it, and Daniel is now running it. And Hannah works in the kitchen there and does all of the food service. And Clayton, although not an actual employee, works, Hannah's husband and Daniel's best friend works there all the time helping get it back up and running. And so my dad told me, as long as Daniel is running that camp, Tall Oaks is an automatic in, you know, every year. And then this last year, or not this last year, close to the end, within the last week or so, he said, you know, I was thinking, and my feelings wouldn't be hurt if Tall Oaks got all of the money for a while, as long as it was helpful. You don't have to pick multiple people each year or multiple groups each year. He's like, I was thinking you can either be everything or something to everyone or everything to someone. And I'd be okay being everyone or everything to someone to Tall Oaks, if that would help. And so Daniel Merrick, I guess he's not here.
Later.
Oh, thank you. Okay, so then you guys are just gonna have to do it. I'll let you know when you come up. Daniel Merrick, in the most Jeff form, sent us a whole sheet. And it has a picture of what would help at the camp, estimated cost, estimated impact,
all of it. And it was like, this would help with blah, 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 blah. And so, and I look at the top and it's called No Mo Cats. And I said, I love the name. And he said, oh crap, I forgot to change it. But you know, no Mo, M-O capitalized, and cats, no Missouri, no cats. So if you two want to come up, I wish Daniel was here for this. So that's fine. We'll get him later. So Daniel sent me we asked for more because he sent a list and it was a great list, but it was only like $12,000 worth of stuff. And so we said, give us some more. And so he sent a whole list and we calculated it all up, and on the like estimated low end, it was about $50,000. We're gonna just clear that list and you guys get a check for $50,000 from what? Oh yeah.
I'm gonna introduce the executive director of hospitality. Director of hospitality.
Daniel is our executive director, but I am as a adopted kid. Been around for 15 years. That's a drop in the bucket. I just want to thank this family so much. You can see the wonderful legacy, the wonderful women that Jeff is leaving behind, and the impact that this is going to make on a place where they could let down their Jeff side and let out their Leslie side, or the goofy Jeff side at Tall Oaks, and to be able to keep that going. The fact that the kids are running it now, so it's wonderful, and we get to help build continue the legacy of Tall Oaks for my son Theo and for Ellie, and hopefully they'll be square dancing together in the church. So this is so impactful, so powerful.
Anybody here who has ever been to Tall Oaks and attended anything at Tall Oaks, stand up. If you have attended Tall Oaks, like this.
Basically, he wanted to make sure, yeah, we're wrapping it up. He wanted to make sure that other groups of friends like this could occur and could find each other. And as long as you guys work there, so no pressure, but as soon as you leave. And so we just want to thank all of you for being part of our extended family and for being here. Knowing he was leaving us with you guys helped him feel better, being able to let go. But look for your Jeff signs because he's sending messages. And speaking of those messages, Sammy mentioned it. If anybody hadn't seen, so Jeff, he was on hospice for about 3 weeks. He was pretty out of it for the last week. He would be gone for most of a day. And then one time he popped up and asked us to move he was trying to communicate. It wasn't clear. And then the only thing he'd get out was pivot. Because he wanted us to move his tray and pivot his tray, but he couldn't just say it normally. He had to quote friends. So we were wondering, why is he hanging on so long? This guy just like, come on, man, just so I was just curious. He said he would send back signs. I don't know. Who knows what's going on in the world? I'm not going to pretend I know. But he said he would send back signs, and if anybody could figure out how to send back a sign, it'd be Jeff. And what kind of sign would Jeff send? It would be in numbers. So he died on January 21st of 26. He lived for exactly 23,100 days, which is exactly 3,300 weeks. The number, he died in 01, and he was born in 10. He died in 26, he was born in 62, and he died at 2:22. And the digits of 222 equals 6. The digits of 23,100 equals 6. The digits of 3,300 weeks equals 6. So who the heck knows? But if anybody's going to send back some weird complex number sign and hold on to the specific time of day on a certain day so that he can claim that, yep, I did that, it would be Jeff. So I wanted to share that. On that note, unless there's anything either of you want to say, because Jeff would be so mad. He'd be like, let's go. So the party is going to start. Just a few housekeeping things. We need everybody both downstairs. Hi, everybody downstairs. Thanks for bearing with us. We're going to flip these rooms. The downstairs is going to be the kid area. We're going to turn it into a place for kids to play, watch movies, color, do fun things. So downstairs, once you get up, please fold your chair. Everybody up here, please fold your chair, put it to the side. We have helpers who will then be flipping the room, and we ask that everybody can leave for maybe 5 to 10 minutes. There's lunch out there, Minsky's Pizza, because Jeff loves pizza. Goodstead sandwiches, because Jeff loved a sandwich, but it's not tuna and it's not over the sink. But you can have a plate. And then there's gonna be popcorn. Jeff loved popcorn. There's all the Coke Zero. He loved Coke Zero. There's Diet Dr. Pepper for the back of the day DDP. People who remember that when he went through that phase. And there's water. So help yourself in here. Once we flip it, we're gonna have some Jeff museums. We'll have tables with his personal items, his fandom. He has a very nerdy table. Check that out. And then also a work table of some of his memorabilia. And then we invite you to participate in the activities that Jeff enjoyed. So there will be Jeff hobby tables. Jeff played a lot of poker in college. So there'll be 2 poker tables. Jeff loved games. So there's going to be games, puzzles. There's going to be a little like Rubik's Cube type puzzle stuff that you figured out. He also really loved reading and writing. So there will be a table with Jeff's writings on it that you can read, along with some of his favorite books. And then what I care most about personally is the writing table. So as I said, he had a 5-part autobiography and finished number 1 and 5. He gave an outline for parts 2, 3, and 4. I don't know what he meant when he just bulletized the list. So there will be a writing table up here with those outlines and a list of people. If you're not on the list of the people that he randomly included, don't be offended, because I've seen some people on there that I know for a fact he didn't like. So if you see a name on there and you know a story of maybe why Jeff would have included that name on the list, please write it down. There's also, you can, if you would rather type it, there's a QR code on the back of the program that you can send the stories in digitally, but we're still going to try our best to compile his autobiographies he didn't get to finish. We just need your help filling in the gaps. So if you could help us with that, would be great. Also, there will be whiskey tasting up here. Help us get rid of Jeff's stash. His favorites were Knob Creek and Eagle Rare, or Basil Hayden, but we also have others that he enjoyed. And then most importantly, up here will be an introvert table where you could just sit and stare at the wall and play on your phone. Please do not approach or talk to anybody sitting at that table. That is their personal space. And on that note, let's get this party started.